For ideas to turn your 12 by 12 pattern paper into cards without making scraps? Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have 12 by 12 paper busting template for A2 cards number 20, which means that there are 19 other A2 12 by 12 paper busting templates at jesscrafts.com, and they're all for free. This one is also free. It's in the video description. There's the very first link at the top. Will let you enter your email and download this template for free. If you'd rather not go through the trouble of, getting each individual template, you can buy a pack of them on Etsy. And actually right now, there's a pack of up to 30. I have 10 new designs that are going to be released over the next couple of months. I just finished this one and I was so excited with new ideas. I made 10 more and I can't wait to share them with you over the next couple of months. But today, let's get started with this design. But that link, coupon code, etc., video description. This one kind of violates some of my rules. I try not to make a ton of cards with one sheet of 12 by 12 paper. So this makes 9 cards, which is a lot. But, there's a lot of paper to work with 12 by 12, and you can make many, many cards with one sheet. But this is a simpler sketch, so hopefully that kind of compensates. And it is one that you can skip at least one of the mats on, although we don't have to, and actually I'll talk about that today. But I did add that suggestion in case. Now, a couple other caveats about this particular template is it does not work with directional paper because you're going to take this 1x4 piece that is cut vertically and you're going to turn it horizontal. So you would want a piece of paper that is non-directional, that does not have a clear top or bottom, or would basically look good even if you turned it on its side. So I have the Candy Brights collection, Recollections. It's a Christmas paper from Michaels. And I realize that when you see this video, it will be past Christmas time. But I also think sometimes that's an opportune time to see some of these papers because that's often the time things like this are starting to go on sale. So hopefully we're still kind of in that window. And there's going to be those of you who, like me, purchased this before Christmas and didn't get a chance to use it. So I wanted to highlight that there are a few sheets of paper in the collection that I don't think are explicitly Christmas. Like you can get away with using them for other things. I think this paper pad is kind of cool because it has a lot of cut aparts for you to make quick cards with. Not so much these larger ones, but there was these smaller 3x3 ones that you could, or 4x4 ones that you could use on a card. And there are these ones that, while some of them are pretty large, they take up most of a card, they could help you to make some fast cards. Then there are papers like this that are just challenging, especially because they are double. This is single-sided, so there's an alternative to use on the back. And that's why when you're picking papers like this, sometimes I would consider, maybe only get it if it's a good enough deal that you're okay with losing those papers and never making anything with them. Maybe you pass them along to a thrift store, just kind of gather them, whatever left that you weren't going to use, or pull out the couple of sheets that you like from the collection, and then just immediately donate the other ones or give them to a school, let some kids play with them when they don't care so much. They'll just have fun, cutting out these ornaments and using them on a page or something, you know what I mean? Like school projects, etc. So I'm gonna go with winter cards today because it's still winter time. We still have winter cards we can make and send. I have winter jokes on jesscrafts.com so that you can pair with them easily. And I have some blue, kind of a tealish blue, light blue, but I wanted something that would match both papers and help to pull in some of the lighter blues from this paper. And we're going to start by following the sketch. I have a guillotine trimmer, so I can cut 2 sheets at once. Most paper trimmers will cut 2 sheets at once. It might not be your preference. You might prefer to only cut 1 sheet at a time, but here I'm gonna cut 2 sheets and we're gonna make 18 cards in all. It's a lot of cards, but I prefer to mix patterns when possible. I could absolutely do this design as with one sheet of single-sided paper. You can always do that. I think honestly, even the blue snowflake would look really cute. I'm a little bit tempted to stop and just do the blue snowflake as a single-sided piece, but I do need to use up a good amount of this paper. So I guess we'll just keep going and we'll make some extra cards because, yeah, we need to use this paper. And then, so what I did there was I cut 1 by 12 inch strips and then a 3 by 12 inch strip as according to the sketch. So it has like 1 by 12, then a 3 by 12, and then repeats. You could, of course, cut all of your 1 by 12s in a row. I just did it this way so it was a little bit more clear where you were getting your pieces for each card from. In some of my sketches for smaller pattern paper, so if you happen to be catching this video and you haven't seen some of my other videos in the past, then I do paper busting templates, not just for 12 by 12 paper and A2 size cards. I do it for 6 by 6 paper, 6 by 8, 8 by 8, and then I do it for A2 size cards. I do it for 5 by 7 cards, slimline, mini slimline, a whole variety of stuff because I love pattern paper. A2 is probably my go-to size of card, but I enjoy experimenting with other sizes as well. So that's what I make my templates for, so that everybody can find whatever paper / card size combination that works well for them. So I cut all of my 3 by 12s into 3 by 4s, and then I'm going to take the same thing with these 1 by 12 strips and I'm going to cut them to 1 by 4. Now, the sketch shows that there's not a mat for these 3 by 4s. And I think you absolutely could do without the mat for them, except for in this particular instance, because I am using a card or a piece of paper, and I did this actually probably the last 12 by 12 video. If I share them in order, which I likely would, I did a pattern paper that had a mostly white background, and then on a mostly white card, it's not always my favorite. So I'm kind of on the fence. I think it looks nice enough like this, and then this one's a little bit more dense, so it kind of even stands out a little bit more. You could totally do this, but I have to cut the circle mat anyway. So I'm gonna cut a circle out of these 3 by 4s, and then I'm gonna cut a mat for them. Well, if I cut mats for these 3 by 4 pieces, I can cut the circle mat out of that other mat. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but I think for a lot of you that probably already makes sense. And so that's why I'm kind of tempted to just go with the mat anyway. So cutting the mats, I did switch to a slightly lighter blue. This is Recollections 110 pound cardstock. It came in like a pack of all different colors of blue. So if you're picking up the pad at Michael's, they have a lot of cardstock that works well and I often use. So what I'm gonna do here is, because I need 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch mats. This is an 8.5 piece, 8.5 wide piece of paper. So if I cut it to 3 1/4 by 8.5, and when I shift it and I cut 4 1/4, I'll get 2 pieces perfectly and no cardstock scraps at the moment. And actually I'll show you, this is a pretty efficient way to do it. So we're gonna cut another 2 sets of those. So I cut it to 6.5, then 3 1/4, 4 1/4, another 4 1/4. So out of 1 piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, I have 6 of those 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and then what it leaves me is this 1 1/4 inch. And I actually need that piece exactly. I need to make a 1 1/4 by 4 1/4 for these strips. So this is also pretty efficient on cardstock, which is another reason though, even though it's kind of outside my wheelhouse in terms of it's calling for you to make 9 cards from 1 sheet of 12 by 12 paper, which is a little much, it does have some other advantages in terms of its quickness, its low scrap nature, etc. So hopefully that makes it up to some of you. And then there's probably some of you who don't mind that it makes 9 cards at all anyway, and weren't even thinking about that. So I'm gonna keep going, and then we'll talk about the circle step. So the next thing that it calls for is for you to cut a circle mat, or a circle and a mat for the circle. And I'm realizing now that I didn't actually put the measurements on the sketch for this circle. They are over here, so no worries. You can still get them, but that is unfortunate. And so hopefully I'll have that fixed for the final version. But I can get some 2-inch circles. And as you may know from previous videos, I actually have more than one set of circle dies, just because when I do make cards, I often make multiples, so it's helpful to me personally to have a couple. And so this is a 2-inch circle, and specifically 2-inch circles are also something I commonly will use. And then I'll take the next size up. And so what we're gonna do is cut the circle roughly out of the center. You don't have to measure it, you can just eyeball it because there will be some wiggle room, and out of the center of the mat. And then I can run these through my die cut machine at the same time. So there's actually not as much advantage to having the 2 sets, but I can, if you're using an electronic die cut machine. This is a Magic Mat from scrapbook.com. It replaces a cutting plate, so it's basically, I'm putting it on a cutting plate. You could if you had an electronic cutting machine like the Gemini Junior, while this is cutting, you could be setting up the next ones with the circle dies or something like that, but minimal benefit most of the time to having those multiple sets. But that's what you want to do for each of the 9 pieces that your 12 by 12 paper will create. And if you're like me and you're using 2 pieces, you're going to do this 18 times. So let's quickly walk through the assembly of the 2 different colorways. And then previously I had said that you could not use directional pattern paper, and I do think it's important to mention, I guess there's a caveat to that, is that if you were using double-sided paper and one side was directional and the other wasn't, that would be okay, because the one side that was directional you would use for the 3x4 piece, and for the circle, then the other side that was not directional, that could go either way, that's the side you would turn for the strip. So important to consider. I think I just wasn't thinking about it because I'm using single-sided paper, but there is times when, things like that make it work. So I will put my mat with the cutout circle down, and then the circle on top. Mine line up pretty well, but that actually doesn't matter, and I did genuinely just eyeball that. I did not measure them to make them turn out correctly. And then, and I feel like I've said this a lot because I've been filming a couple videos with these circles lately, but you can put a little bit of cardstock inside of these circles to prop up the circle, the cardstock circle mat that you're about to put down, because otherwise you're trying to push it through 2 layers of cardstock. It's not a big deal. You absolutely do not have to add that, but it is, if you happen to have some colored cardstock scraps and you like the look of that better. And then I totally messed up. First step, and this actually negates a little bit of the need for that strip there. Well, let's see. Luckily, ATG is pretty easy to peel off, even though I put a little bit of pressure to place it down. There's supposed to be the strip in between these guys. Okay, so first what you want to do is put the strip. The strip will go all the way across the card. You can, especially if you have a mat like this, you can try to center it on the card. I don't do a lot of that, but it's always an option. I'm usually just like, this is close enough. And honestly, a lot of times, because I've been crafting for 15, maybe 20 years, getting close, paper crafting, making cards, making scrapbooks, all that kind of stuff. So I've gotten pretty good at it over time. And so sometimes it's crooked and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of times it's pretty close. Okay, pattern paper down. Gotta stop chatting. Well, you know what I mean. So opposites. I put the blue snowflake paper down for the big square, so the smaller strip is going to be the opposite paper, which in that case is the teeny tiny snowflakes. I have the teeny tiny colorful snowflakes. I put down the blue snowflake strip, and then we add the circles. And as you can see, it's a little bit less important if that hole is there. And then we go back to the original pattern. So if I put the little snowflakes in the background, I'm going to put the little snowflakes on the circle. And when I got to this point in the card making, I was kind of like, these papers, maybe I don't like them as much together as I thought I did. And it made me want to do something where I pull in a little bit more of this the smaller snowflake paper. Like, it has all these colors in it, and the blue was complemented by the additional light blue as the mats. So I wanted to find a way to pull in some of the other colors. And then I also was like, I also want to look in my collection and what kind of like winter themed stuff have I purchased but haven't made use of or good use of yet. And I would like to get a few more cards of this, since, if I'm going to make 18, this is going to be the perfect time to use it, because then it's going to be used 18 times, right? So I decided that even though arguably a tree is more Christmassy than just pure wintry, that's like also for me, I'm a little mixed, because we have pine trees all year long, right? Not pink pine trees though. So I decided to make mine pink to pull in, because I think it's more that you can make fun colors of trees now. It's like trendy or whatever. So anyway, I thought, that's how I'll pull in the pink. Although there's green in there too. You think I would have thought, hey, cut a green tree, but then I think that does maybe read more Christmas. I don't know, guys. I made a pink tree. Let's just leave it at that. And then I'd pull in the pink by stamping with the Plastic Flamingo Lawn Fawn ink for my sentiment, which is just gonna say, stay cozy. It's from the scrapbook.com winter, I want to say maybe Winter Wishes, Hello Winter stamp set, which I have used this a couple times, mostly for its sentiments, I believe. I think only, maybe some of the snowflakes or whatever, but like mostly for sentiments. And it does have a coordinating die set that would actually cut out the sentiments, so you wouldn't have to put them on like a banner die like I'm doing here. But of course I have plenty of banner dies. I think that Stay Cozy sentiment is I like the elegant look of it, and so I'm going to stamp a couple of those and layer the tree on top of it, so it will look kind of like a single, just one side of the banner will show. So if you don't want to cut the die, that is a little bit more time consuming, but I will kind of show you a hack for that. You could just cut it out of strips of cardstock. However, when you're going to cut your mats, which again, if I had thought of all these ideas at one time, I'd have done this the first time. But I'm going to cut the larger circle mat. I can actually fit this particular banner die on there as well. So look in your collection, maybe you have something that would have a similar sort of function, a small banner die, and then you can get it all with just one pass of the machine, since you were going to put it through the machine anyway, and then that little bit of stitching and extra detail looks nice. This Christmas tree die is also from scrapbook.com. I believe it was a freebie layered fir tree. It does have a stem, that's not quite the right, trunk, I think, as well, which you could totally cut. And then it's 3 separate dies that you then layer together, so you could pick some different colors. You could add a little bit of snow to it or something if you wanted as well. So I have the 18 cards, each 12 by 12 paper, made 9 cards, but because I used 2 pieces, I had more. At first, my plan was to put pink trees on all of them to pull in the pink paper, but then I was going through some of my images that I already had colored, because I kind of have like a little stash of images that I've either colored and cut out, or I've printed and cut out, and I had a couple that were pretty perfect. These little girls, I had colored a few extra of them, and I thought they were really sweet for this card. I had mostly colored these fairies from Lawn Fawn. These fairies are from Sweet November stamps. These are from Ink Blot Shop. Should have mentioned that too. So Ink Blot Shop, Lawn Fawn, Sweet November. And this is a die, I want to say Impression Obsession, but I forget off the top of my head. That's a Lawn Fawn. But so remember to grab your free sketch down in the video description, and you can start making some fast cards. While it's a lot of them, it's a pretty fast sketch. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with the share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video!